You guys will remember the other day, there was a shocking piece of news that came out, like really sent great tremors through the force. That longtime 17-year Marvel executive and someone that many people thought might be Kevin Feige's heir apparent to taking over Marvel Studios. Nobody ever said officially she was Victoria Alonso, and her sudden departure from Disney, or specifically from Marvel. And at the time when we covered this story and talking about this, which is really unusual because unlike something like Warner Brothers and DC, like if you go back to my time at, say, AMC, Warner Brothers, between ownership changes, CEO changes, studio president changes, creative director changes, without exaggeration, without hyperbole, there had to have been 15 to 20 major leadership changes between Warner Brothers, DC, all that kind of stuff, right? Like a lot of constant upheaval. But the only major change with Marvel Studios since my time at AMC has really been that, I don't know, Alan Horn left. And he wasn't even in Marvel. He was like the Marvel boss. But I mean, that's it. You've had Kevin Feige and his core team have been there leading the Marvel machine to being the biggest box office success. This is fact. The Marvel machine to being the biggest, most successful box office machine in the history of Hollywood. When you collectively add it all up, their films have made close to $30 billion. Let me say that number again. $30 billion, that franchise. And so when the announcement came that Victoria Alonso, this executive senior president of physical production and post-production and animation, all that kind of stuff was suddenly gone, that's something that we haven't seen happen in Marvel since I've been doing this job. It was really, and they had no details. Now, as the internet tends to do, a lot of speculation started going on, including, some people who fundamentally misunderstand what her job was, because I saw a lot of people online saying, well, good, because I didn't like the movies lately anyway, or the movies are too woke, or blah, blah, blah. You do understand, I have to remind people, Victoria Alonso was not a creative executive. She did not write the movies. She was in charge of, once the movies were caught up with the screenwriters under Kevin Feige's supervision and the directors, and they came up with what the movies were, she was just then in charge of making sure it could get done. That was her job, making sure it could get done. I guess in many ways, Victoria Alonso was to Kevin Feige what Jonathan Boyko is for me, right? Like I'll come up with something like direction, and then Jonathan he's the one who makes sure it gets done. And that was Victoria Alonso's job, right? So it left us, a lot of us wondering, well, why was she let go? Ant-Man and the Wasp not being all that good of a movie, that had nothing to do with her. So it led a lot of us wondering, well, now there's a story in Variety that is kind of giving some more kind of details and insight as to what's going on. No firm answers, but they're starting to give a little bit more context. They said this: Alonso's dismissal has raised numerous questions about behind-the-scenes workings at the prized content engine, Marvel. And with them, another unfavorable news cycle as Disney CEO Bob Iger attempts to stabilize the parent company amid economic unrests. While the cause of Alonso's termination is still unclear, the sources said, Variety sources that is, that the decision was made by a consortium including Human Resources, Disney's legal department, and multiple executives, including Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman, who is the one who succeeded Alan Horn, to whom all of Marvel Studios reports. Alonso's longtime boss and Marvel chief creative officer Kevin Feige felt mired in an impossible situation and ultimately did not intervene. One source adds, Alonso was blindsided, another source added. So from what I understood, and I talked to one or two people, this was not Kevin Feige's decision. Kevin Feige did not want Victoria Alonso to go, from what I've heard. But as the article in Variety kind of points out, he was kind of put between a rock and a hard place, and he was unable to intervene. There's really nothing he could have done at that point. So that does raise up the question a lot. Now, some people, like we talked about the other day, suggested that, we've heard all these stories like coming up in the last year or so about how unhappy visual effects artists were with Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that has something to do with it. However, according to this report, while there were people very unhappy with the way Marvel was going, Victoria Alonso, as the head of post-production, was put into an impossible situation. Like, listen to this. Let me get there. I lost my spot here. I lost my spot. Damn it. Anyway, the basic thing in the article that it was suggesting was that between 2021 and 2022, Marvel had 17 projects.
Right.
17 projects between 2021 and 2022. Here we go. Check. Okay, bring this back up again. Let's see. This is the thing. Alonso joined Marvel Studios in 2006, 3 years before Disney acquired the label for $4 billion. Over 17 years, she's been a fixture and all that kind of stuff. She's been a big thing for representation. She's a visible minority, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, listen to this. Numerous sources familiar with Marvel pointed to the tremendous pressure that the unit, the post-production unit, has been under over the past few years to deliver compelling content, not just to theaters, but also in the form of new streaming shows intended to bolster Disney+. In 2021 and 2022, Marvel unloaded an unprecedented torrent of comic book adventures, releasing 17 titles. In 2 years, 7 movies, 8 streaming series, and 2 TV specials over the course of 23 months. That breakneck distribution schedule, a product of the pandemic and the need to consistently feed Disney Plus, was not of Alonso's making. This wasn't her. She's not the one who appointed, we need to have 17 projects come out in 2 years. This wasn't her. She was just the one who had to be responsible for making sure shit got done. It was not of Alonso's making, says the Variety report. Marvel was far from the only studio tasked with delivering feature-level content for a newly launched streaming service, but it was Alonso's job to get each of those titles through Marvel's gargantuan post-production process. By the summer of 2022, cracks began to show in the company's seemingly impervious armor. And so it just kind of gives us a little bit more context that, listen, when you're the one responsible that says, hey, we're going to make these movies, and we're not even going to give a second thought to how much work, how much pressure, how much whatever goes into the visual effects. We're just going to make our movies, and then we're going to hand it off to you, and you make sure it all gets done. 17 projects in 23 months. I can't even begin to fathom how big of a job that was and how big of a job that is. Like, that's crazy.
I can't even watch 17 projects in that many months.
I mean, and a lot of people didn't. Now they're going to have to replace her. They're going to have to find somebody who can get it done. But if you want to know how much she was responsible for at Marvel, check out this last paragraph. Alonso's replacement was not immediately announced by Disney, but given her expansive portfolio of duties, it's going to take more than one person to fill her shoes. So she was the senior president of physical production, of post-production, and of animation. And by the way, she delivered. Those movies came out. Those TV shows came out. What If came out. And so now they're saying it's impossible for one person to do that job. It just can't be done. And how she did it, nobody knows. So that leaves me thinking, when we go back to that one paragraph about the fact that human resources was also involved in the decision and legal department was involved, I gotta, look, this is pure speculation on my part, okay? Pure speculation. But contrary to the weird belief going around out there, it's like she got fired because the quality of Marvel movies is going down. She wasn't a creative executive. That's like blaming Kevin Feige's Uber driver for the movies, for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania not being good. It had nothing to do with it. That wasn't her job. It sounds to me, and again, let me reemphasize, pure speculation on my part. But with the involvement of the human resources and the legal department, it sounds like there may have been an incident. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm not suggesting what. I have not heard from anybody that that's the case. I do not have inside sources in the halls of Disney that have told me that, Victoria Alonso snapped one day and hit a food server over the head with a tray. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, when I look at this and I look at who was involved in the decision-making process, as it wasn't Kevin Feige to make the decision to let her go, I have to guess that there must have been a specific incident that led to this, because they just kept throwing an unreasonable amount of work at her and she just got it done. So I don't know what it could be otherwise. Now, look, I know there's also a bunch of people who are mad because they're wussies. There are a bunch of people who are mad at Alonso because like 5 years ago or something, she once suggested that maybe the term X-Men might be outdated since there are so many women in the X-Men. Why that bothers you? I don't agree, but it doesn't bother me. You know why? Because I'm a fucking man. But anyway, a lot of people got all their little panties in a twist when she dares suggest that, I don't know, maybe X-Men is an outdated term. And everybody lost their shit, or a bunch of, weak-minded people lost their shit. I don't agree with her, but whatever. But I'm going to be really fascinated to see over the coming months what we find out, because this is a huge seismic shakeup at Marvel, because the key person in charge of making sure all the wild magic that Kevin Feige tries to create actually physically gets done is now not there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you have some insight? Do you have some speculation about what could be happening here? How big of an impact do you think this is going to have on Marvel moving forward? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, the Black Tux. It's time we had the talk. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that ends in the 3-letter word. I'm talking about a tux. And when you need a tux, the best place to go to get one is the Black Tux. The Black Tux makes it super easy to get an on-trend, top-quality, guaranteed to fit tux without ever needing to leave your house. So here's how it works. Take the Black Tux fit quiz, pick the style you want to wear, and boom, your tux is delivered to your door 10 days before the day you need it. That's plenty of time to try it on and make sure it wears you well. And hey, if the fit's not quite right, say hello to the Black Tux Fit Guarantee. Order a better size within a day or two of receiving the less than great fitting one, and they'll send another one right away at no extra cost. Their expert fit specialists will help you find the perfect style tux or suit and make sure it fits just right. Listen, I've been dubious in the past about online sites or apps that say they can get your measurements, but the fit quiz with the Black Tux works great. And man, I wish I had had these guys for so many events I've attended over the years. So rent or buy, the Black Tux is the best place to go when you need a tuxedo for a wedding or a special night. And right now, when you go to theblacktux.com/Campea and use the code Campea, you'll save $20 off your order. That's TheBlackTux.com/Campea, code Campea to save $20.